Can you do it no bombs? Probably. Am I going to? No. Again, if you want to see me do no bombs, go to my cup lock. Are you going to beat Hocus Pocus? That is not his name. Anyways, I'm going to beat him by not doing him. Whoa, no way, man. That's crazy. Are you serious, bro? That's crazy. How did you do that? Whoa. Are you serious? Then you're gonna move towards me. That guy's so cringe. What? I can't go anywhere there. Oh, dang it. Oh my god. There you go. Oh, one. You doing this?
Should go college education. The connection between your mind and your body is complicated. That gender is a complicated subject. I think that's true. I think that's a real thing. But human beings are divided into men and women. Human beings also have two legs. That doesn't mean if you're born with one leg, you're not a human being. It means you're an anomaly. It means you are handicapped. You don't have two legs like most human beings, because most human beings have two legs. So if it's just somebody is born with intersex, that rare quality that sometimes happens to people, that's an anomaly. It's a handicap. But most people, human beings, are male and female. Suddenly this changes. Suddenly you say, oh no, there's such a thing as gender. Gender is different from sex, but it's actually the same as sex. So gender can be different from sex, but if it's different from sex, you have to change your sex because it's the same. And then everybody goes like, I don't understand what that means. It doesn't matter if you understand what that means. We're cutting your testicles off. It doesn't matter, right? So now we say, excuse me, I have some questions. What? You're transphobic. You're transphobic. And so you can't have a debate. And again, you become stupid. So the thing that makes this funny, it makes it comical, is when they get caught. The DOJ, the FBI, raided Mar-a-Lago, the home of a former president of the United States, as if we were living in Venezuela at the worst moment of its governance. This was like an absolute violation of every American practice to raid the home. They could have gone to court. They could have made it noise. They could have done all kinds of things. Instead, they sent a flood of FBI agents into the home of a former president. And then they found, oh my God, there were classified documents in there. Now, of course, he's the president, so he might have just said, poof, you're not classified. When he was president, nobody knows whether he did it or not. But, they have to appoint a special counsel. And you remember, oh my God, there could have been the nuclear codes in there. And finally, we found out there was nothing in there. There was nothing that was really bad. But there could have been the nuclear codes. And if there were nuclear codes, then what? Nothing. Because by that time, the nuclear codes would have all been changed. All right. So what makes this hilarious is suddenly they start to find, and Joe Biden, by the way, goes on TV and he says, I can't believe anyone could be that irresponsible, right? So now they find classified documents on Joe Biden's property. Not once, not twice, 3 times, 3 different places. Once in his garage. He says the garage was locked, so it's okay. Once in an office at the Penn Biden Center where Hunter Biden was probably there. Plenty of people from the administration were probably there. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken was there, Undersecretary of Defense for Policy Colin Powell. So this is really something that could be penalized. And now, special counsel to investigate this, not because he wants to, not because he's not a totally politicized, totally corrupt attorney general, but because now he looks like an idiot if he doesn't. He's got to do it. They're going to investigate this too. But suddenly, now I have to say, now when I'm talking, as I'm speaking, suddenly the left-wing press has gotten tough about this because they realize if they don't get tough, they're walking around with their backsides hanging out. So they have to get tough. They have to ask questions about it, even CNN. But when it first happened, CNN shamed themselves, beclowned themselves by rushing onto the scene and saying, oh, it's not the same thing because this was only 10 documents, but Donald Trump had lots of documents. Yeah, but Joe Biden was also vice president. He couldn't wave his magic wand and declassify these documents, so it was different in that way, too. But even if you don't think about Joe Biden, think about Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton purposely, on purpose, intentionally put classified information on her cell phone, on her private server, and then when she was caught at it, destroyed the evidence. And this is the thing that gets you, right? We're told we're deplorable that we voted for Trump. Not just the news not just Hillary Clinton, the opponent says we're deplorable, which is, I guess, part of her job. The news media tells us we're deplorable. We're worse than Hitler. We're bigots. We're racist for doing this. Stephen Colbert tells us we're deplorable. We're gonorrhea. We're just walking gonorrhea. If Hillary Clinton was not at least as bad in every respect as Trump, and to my mind, much worse, I don't know who was. I mean, she was a career criminal and has certainly been caught out doing worse. But even now, nobody is mentioning that. Nobody is mentioning it. And it makes us stupid because we get so ticked off, as we should be ticked off, that we can't even talk about the things that Donald Trump may have done something wrong. He may say, when you think about it, yeah, I like Donald Trump, but he did something wrong. That's a perfectly rational way to be. The news media makes us stupid. Listen, politicians are not my heroes. I don't have heroes who are politicians. There may be the occasional politician like George Washington who's dragged into politics who becomes a hero, or like Abraham Lincoln who comes at a moment when he has to become a hero. But politicians are not my heroes. Politicians have interests in gaining power, in using power in ways that I don't like, in obfuscating and lying and hiding things from me, that they're not my heroes, right? Now, that's all politicians. They're good. I'm not saying there are no good politicians. I'm just saying they're not people that I follow with my whole heart. I follow, poets and saints and people like that with my whole heart because they're in it for God and beauty. But politicians are in it for power, and they're in it for politics. And so I admire some of them. I certainly vote for some over others. But when you expose them, I'm willing to hear that they're being exposed unless you're only going to do it to one side. I tell my Democrat friends, I have still a few remaining Democrat friends, not many, but some, and I tell them, you're not wrong about Republicans. Republicans stink. You're wrong about Democrats. Democrats stink, and their ideas are worse. And that's the thing that I told the guy just the other day, he's an absolute leftist. He's always giving me stick about Donald Trump this and Donald Trump that. And I said, listen, I don't mind that you're a Democrat. I mind that you're a sucker. I mind that you're a sucker. I mind that you think that your guys are somehow better than our guys. It's all about ideas. It's all about policies. It's all about the things that work. You only have to look at what is going on in the country to realize that leftist policies do not work. Conservative policies work when they do them, but as you know, very few people are conservative. Very few politicians are conservatives. Most of the Republicans are not conservative. So we have to work with them. We have to compromise with them. But when you get a conservative policy in there, it almost always works. That is the thing. So all of this is making America moronic. It is making America moronic. Conversations about politics are no longer informed. They're no longer informative. It is all anger. It is all rage. It's all social media. It's all insults. And the problem with that is ultimately you lose your republic. Ultimately, you lose your republic. The one thing that all the founders, one of the things that all the founders agreed upon is they agreed you needed an educated populace to argue the cases so that the politicians would be held to account. That's what we're here for. We're here to hold them to account. I don't think there should be no government. There has to be a government. We know there has to be a government, or else the strong just dominate the weak. There has to be a government to protect everybody from one another. But we will not find out who they are. We cannot make good choices. We cannot be wise in our choices if the media, if Hollywood, if all of the people who have a job to do not do their job, and instead just turn us into idiots. You know, we talk about the founding a lot because we want to stay true to the ideas that founded this country. I really think the divisions in this country are the divisions between those who support the founding and those who don't. I think it's more important than left and right in America now. And I just read this really good book called The Political Theory of the American Founding, Natural Rights, Public Policy, and the Moral Conditions of Freedom. It is written by Thomas G. West, who teaches politics at Hillsdale. Hillsdale, as I've said before, is just having a big moment, and Thomas West is part of it. I really recommend this book because it's different. We'll talk to him about it now. Tom, thank you very much for coming on. It's good to see you.
Good. Good to be here.
So you have a really interesting thesis. Most of the time when people are talking about the founders, they're talking about the ways in which the founders disagreed. You know, Adams versus Jefferson and Hamilton versus Jefferson, really Jefferson versus everybody. But your book, The Political Theory of the American Founding, is about the things that they agreed on, which you think are almost everything. Could you explain this a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's easy to get lost in the weeds. You know, among historians, they have a term. They have a term: lumpers versus splitters. The splitters tend to be historians who are always looking for all the ways in which a group of people differ. And I, as a political scientist who cares also about the later legacy of the founders, I'm a lumper, meaning what did the founders have in common that led to this country we had, and to some degree still have? They must have had something that they agreed on, because how did that work? And then, and that's, the more I looked into the founders' actual views on basic individual, like, what did they think government was for? What kinds of policies did they favor? It turns out much greater agreements all over the place than you might expect from your normal history.
So give me an example. What were some of the things they did agree about?
Well, for example, the Declaration of Independence itself. We all have these natural rights, and government exists to secure these rights. Now, okay, that's an agreement. Well, but then somebody might say, yeah, but what did that mean in foreign policy? Maybe somebody thought we should be spreading democracy around the world. Maybe somebody else thought we should not. Well, then you start looking into that, and you see, no, actually, the basic features of the founding foreign policy were shared by everybody, which is we should mostly be focused on our own self-defense against the Europeans, who are the great threat from abroad. And then, you know, at home we had to worry at that time very much about the Indians, and we're very powerful. We're a serious challenge to American sovereignty in periods where they were dominant. So that's just one example. But you could go in domestic policy the same way. You can find all kinds of cases where the consensus exists that once people notice it, once you point it out, it's easy to see, but it's often overlooked.
So I was mentioning Ketanji Brown Jackson, who said she had no position on natural rights. And once I was interviewing Alan Dershowitz, and I pointed out to him that Lincoln had sort of used the Declaration as the foundation of the Constitution. And he said, no, Lincoln was wrong. That was what he said. He said Lincoln was wrong. The Declaration is a political document. The Constitution is a legal document. They're totally different. But you're saying something very different than that, it seems to me. You're saying that you're saying Lincoln was right, that everything that's in the Declaration informs the Constitution.
Yeah, not only that, I would say Lincoln was right also in regard to the state constitution. Again, a point that often tends to get neglected. I mean, when people think about the founding, they tend to think about the Federalist Papers, the Declaration, the Constitution, all of which I'm in favor of. Yeah, you got to read those. But what was going on at the state government level? That turns out to be an important part of the key to the puzzle, because the states, they were the ones doing domestic policy. They were the ones who had to wrestle with the question of slavery. Now, the federal government had no power over slavery in the states. under the original Constitution, but the states had power. And there were a lot of discussions and debates about that, North as well as South. Okay, so that is where you go find that. And what you discover in the discussion of slavery at that time in the states, state governments, is they were constantly referring back to the idea that all men are created equal and are born with the same individual rights. Facing that fact, what do we do about slavery? And so the question then turned into, can we do something about slavery right away? Do we have to